Hello, Rebecca McLaughlin here, and today I want to give you 5 tips for avoiding, reducing, or treating stress, particularly creative burnout stress for you writers, authors, artists, and creators out there. These are all things that I've recognized in my own life, and hopefully these tips will work for you too. Tip 1 in the avoiding stress category is don't overcommit. Part of the culture of creativity and productivity is that you should always be making something new. And if you commit yourself to too many things, you will get overwhelmed. Now, this doesn't mean you can't work your full-time job while working on a novel while also doing some art. But what that does mean is that don't maybe commit to writing an entire novel in the 6 weeks when you have a huge work project due, or try to arrange and organize your own personal deadlines in a way that doesn't conflict with other obligations in your life. Don't commit to writing a book by the end of the year if you're the type of person who has a huge family function at the end of the year and you know you're going to be too busy entertaining your weird uncle and cousin to actually get any writing done. So that's tip 1, don't overcommit. Tip number 2, related to that, is to extract yourself from the culture that productivity equals value. I know obviously productivity in a monetary sense equals value, but it doesn't equal value from a personal sense. We are so entrenched now in a culture where if you're not creating something, then what are you doing with your time? If you're not monetizing your hobbies, then you're not doing hobbies right, so they say. But a hobby is a hobby because you love it. And if you choose to monetize it, to pursue it as a career, or just see what it can get you if it does make money, that's totally fine. But my recommendation is to not stress out when you need to take personal time or you want to do something with no intention or no ability to monetize it. That's okay. The value of your art is separate and should not be intrinsically tied to your value as a person. It can be part of who you are as a person, and certainly the things you love to do help to define you, but those are not the only things that define you. I've said it once and I'll say it again, you are valuable as is. And continuing on this theme, tip number 3 is to listen to your body and to your loved ones. Yes, that's right. This is your reminder for self-care. Now, if you're not familiar with the term self-care, let me briefly define it for you. It is caring for yourself. Not just, I care about myself, but caring for yourself the way you would care for someone you love. So when you give advice to those people in your life, don't overwork, don't push yourself too hard. Yes, you're beautiful. Yes, you deserve love. All of those things are true for you too. I always tell people, treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend. This means that if your body is starting to get fatigued or cramped or anxious, then maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to make sure you're doing something physically active to stretch out those muscles, because as an artist, you spend a lot of time committed to a single space. Now, oftentimes that's an easel or a laptop or a notebook or anything, and you need variety in your life in a lot of ways, and that includes physical variety. And similarly, you should listen to the people who love you. So again, not only do you have to be your own best friend, but listen to your best friends. If they're telling you, wow, you look stressed, man, we should really go do this thing together, or can I help you in some way? Let them listen. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to make us realize that we've been burning the midnight oil for too long, or we've been burning the candle at both ends for too long, or we've been burning the midnight oil at both ends for too long. You get it. There's a lot of burnout happening, and that's not good. Yes, it can be addictive to create, and then to receive praise or feedback or appreciation, but that's not all there is to life or to you. And it can be really, really stressful, not just mentally, but also physically. So you have to keep an eye on those things and listen to the people who love you. My 4th tip, My 4th tip, this coffee is real good. All right, okay. So my 4th tip this. No, not Scrabble themed mugs, although this is one of my favorites. No, my fourth tip has to do with caffeine and stimulant intake. Yes, I'm coming for your coffee. Don't panic, please don't panic. I love coffee. I love it so much. My freelance editor once told me that in the new book I'm writing, it's the most loving description of coffee she's ever read. Because I understand. I love it. I love coffee. I love caffeine. I like that kick in the morning. I like that sweet, sweet flavor. Yes, I'm a sugar addict who also likes the cream and the sugar and the delicious and the pumpkin spice lattes. Oh my God. Can I be more of a millennial right now? Probably not. But here's the thing about caffeine and stimulants. They not only give you a short-term boost of energy, they also are a stimulant. They can raise your blood pressure, they can make your heart pound faster, and they can give you anxiety and nervous energy and freak you out, and then you can crash later, and that's no good for anyone. And honestly, my experience is that I drink decaf now, and part of that is because I still love coffee, but caffeine was hurting me more than it was helping me. I didn't understand why I was getting more stressed out more often than normal, or why I was getting more anxious more often than normal, or why at work all of a sudden I had all this energy, but it was all nervous energy and I didn't know what to do with it and I wasn't being productive with it. And so what I realized was that it was the caffeine that I was drinking every day. Especially since I was starting my mornings with the caffeine, I got in the habit of relying on it, and I used to go through cycles of being addicted to caffeine and then having to go off of caffeine, and then I started drinking caffeine again. It's the coffee and it's the tea and it's delicious and we love it. But when you're overly reliant or overly engaged with a stimulant like caffeine, it can cause you all of those negative emotions, both physically and mentally. And it can have a negative impact then on your art. And I know this is like sacrilegious for an author to say, but if you are experiencing a lot of stress, maybe consider cutting back on the caffeine. So my fifth and last tip for avoiding or treating stress is to look it in the face and acknowledge, validate, and then experience all of those emotions. So a lot of times when I'm feeling stressful, I get really nervous and overwhelmed about something. Either I have too many things going on at once, or I have a really big thing coming up. I know I'm gonna feel stressed out when I book publications around the corner. At this point, it's less than 3 months away, and it still gives me that energetic feeling. But here's what I do when I start feeling that, either when there's something imminent coming around the corner, or just in general. The first question I always ask myself is, am I stressed and nervous, or am I excited? And I know this sounds maybe silly at first, but those emotions physically are very similar. It's a rush of energy, and if you try to cap that energy just because you're feeling that energy, it can be a little unclear what it is you're feeling. Am I nervous that my book's coming out, or am I excited, or am I anxious or scared? Sometimes, to be completely frank, all of those things are true. I'm feeling all of those things at once because emotions in people are complicated. What's just really, really great is if I'm feeling stressed about something, I will first say, am I excited? And is this energy I'm feeling, can it be channeled into my excitement? Sometimes it can, and then I'm just like wildly, flailingly excited, and it's great. And that energy maybe still has a little bit of a negative impact on me, but you can't always get rid of the energy. Sometimes you just have to find how to express it and let it out into the world. Again, this is another reason to not be addicted to caffeine when you're already on an emotional edge of some kind. The next emotion I address in terms of that level of excitement and acknowledging it and feeling it and trying to move on from it is about feeling nervous or scared. A lot of times when I'm coming up towards a big event, or certainly when I'm coming up toward my book publication, I get really nervous. Or when there's a presentation at work, or back in school when there was a test. Here's one of the ways that I deal with being nervous. I tell myself, being nervous is totally okay. It is not a bad emotion. Yes, it can feel bad, it can feel stressful, but being nervous just means that you care about doing a good job. It just means you care. I'm totally fine with the fact that I'm nervous about my book coming out, because it just means that I care about it and about my work and about how people receive it. And yeah, a lot of that is out of my control, which is a bit of why it becomes stressful and not just being nervous. But acknowledging that it's okay to be nervous, it means you care, and then also acknowledging that it's out of your control to some extent can help me reel myself back in, or just get on a level playing field with my own head. You know, once I understand what I'm feeling and maybe why I'm feeling it, I'm then more okay feeling it. So that's a lot about how you can emotionally approach your stress, is just trying to figure out what emotions are you feeling, acknowledging them, validating them in that it's totally fine and normal that you feel this. You don't have to try to not feel nervous, and then experiencing it and getting through it. So I'm going to try to keep all of these things in mind as I approach the publication of my very first book in January 2020. Okay, it's very exciting, and I'm nervous, and I'm sure as I get closer it's going to start stressing me out because there's not much I can do about it, but I'm always just going to try to focus back in on those core reminders. I'm at decaf level, so caffeine is not going to interfere with the way that I want to or should be feeling. I have already told my supervisor that I'll be taking vacation the day my book comes out, not even because I'll be doing something necessarily, but because it'll be so overwhelming and exciting that I'll want to be on social media, and I preemptively don't want to have myself overcommitted in terms of my day job and my author job. And of course, my decision to go off coffee was led from a bodily warning sign, saying, hey, your heart's racing way more than it should be, and you're having a lot of trouble calming down your stress level. Maybe the caffeine has something to do with that. All of these steps are for me, and they're for you, if you find them helpful. To be honest, if you have any tips or advice for dealing with stress, particularly as it relates to the creative field, please feel free to leave it below in the comments. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I'll see you next time. Bye!